session on Saturday morning. Let's start with our prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramay, sarve bhadrani paschyantu, ma kaschit dukkhad bhavet. With this verse from the Sanskrit writings, I wish everybody a wonderful Christmas and let everybody be healthy, let there be no misery, no deprivation, and let there be happy around. Now we'll continue on our presentation on chakras in human body. Clarify these 3 points. One, the chakras are in the astral body, they are not in the physical body. As we call it, is not in the sthul sarira, it is in the suksham sarira, called astral body. It is also called what you call tejas body, the body itself in the state of dream. When you are dreaming, you are in the form of ray. You are not in the solid form as we exist now in Vaishnava state. This is called Vaishnava state. And in the night, when we are dreaming, Tejas state, that Tejas state is basically astral state. You exist in the form of rage. So the chakras are found in that state of body and responsible for flow of energy. They are the junction points for flow. We discussed that the important source of energy starts from Mooladhara, the first chakra, which is at the bottom of the spine, and then it moves upwards. It should move upward. That is the precise nature. In many cases, it moves only through the second chakra, that is Swadhisthana, and then we discharge energy there, and then it does not move upward. The urdhgami movement of energy is extremely important for thinking, and that is why the chakra theory is important in this respect. We should prevent to flow downwards. If it goes downwards, we are actually deprived of the energy flow. Should finally go upward to Sahasrahara, the top chakra, which is at that is where we need to make sure that the energy flows there. And through meditation, we try that in our practices. Now we discussed all the other chakras, but let me just repeat them. The Mooladhara chakra is related to the element of earth or the solid element, and this is the actually the most important source of energy, and we have discussed this related to that is the code word or the word used to activate this chakra. Similarly, each of the chakras have their own mantra. You can have this slide presentation. I sent it to Rajesh. He can send to each one of you if you want. And then we move to the next chakra, that is Swadhisthana chakra, which is actually connected to the jal, that is the liquid element of the 5 elements, and this is connected to our sense of procreation and recreation, and this is also the chakra responsible for creativity in the like artistic abilities and abilities which are highly creative in the sense of earth. So Swadhisthana chakra, then we go to Manipur chakra, which is right at the navel part, responsible for strength. It provides a lot of strength and power. When you speak, weak, you should just meditate on this chakra and you will immediately get strength. You can experience this anytime during the day. When you are feeling weak, just meditate on this chakra and you will feel a tremendous strength in your body and power. And that is how this chakra is also actually related to willpower, strong will, mental balance. These are some of the important, positive sides of this chakra. Then we go to the fourth element of Panch Tattva, that is Vayu, the air, and Anahat, that is the heart chakra, is related to the element of Vayu or the element. And this chakra is more for lesson, for acceptance of whatever. Chakra full of compassion, full of compassion. You accept things. You become empathic. You have, for others. You become. And so this is the chakra which helps in that process. And then Visuddha chakra is at the throat, at the base of our throat. This is the chakra which is basically meant for communication abilities. The people who can express themselves, they have this chakra very well developed in their body. And this chakra is, as I mentioned, is the what we call vowels, 16 vowels in our Sanskrit, language. All the 16 petals of this chakra, they provide one vowel each. So all the basic sounds, because vowels provide the basic sounds, and all these basic sounds originate from this chakra. And that is why it is also important for communication. And then the Agya chakra, this is at the Brikuti, which is extremely important because this is the chakra which actually is the home of our mind, or Antakaran, mind, intellect, and also ego. I mentioned Chit because Chit is the upper part of our what you call human soul, which is the part which is directly linked to the mind, intellect, and ego. So this chakra is extremely important because this is what you call a sense of meditation. For meditation, and for state is extremely important. It is extremely important for intuition, to revive your intuitive abilities. This chakra is extremely important. And we discussed about these Sanskrit alphabets, how they originate from each of these chakras, and that is science behind the human physiology and the human language. This is the most scientific explanation you can find anywhere in any part of the world about the language, how the sounds originate, how they are linked to the human physiology. Obviously there's something working in my body, the words are coming out, and the words are coming out in a order, in a particular fashion. That is happening because of the chakras. And in the sound system, the most important chakra is the Visuddha chakra, which is at the base of your throat, which gives basic sounds of our alphabet. So we discussed these. Now we will discuss the more processes of this whole thing. Now let us first look at this slide. There are three principal nadis, energy channels, in our spinal cord. The straight channel is the main part, which is actually called spine. It's called Sushumna Nadi. Now that is, you can see in the middle, the straight like a pipe going upwards. This is also called Merudand. In Sanskrit, it is called Merudand. It's like, a dand which is coming from the root. It's like from the root to upwards. So this is Merudand. This is actually works in Merudand. That is the straight, that is the flow of energy. Then there are two very important Nadi energy channels which are on both sides of this Sushumna. They are called Ida and Pingala. Now Ida starts the one without, it's the blank and the Pingala is blank. Now Ida actually starts on the left hand side of his spine and ultimately goes left hand side and terminates in your nostril. Similarly, Pingala starts on the right hand side of the spine, terminates again at the right hand side, again at the nostril. These two nadis, they move, they make a sort of loop at energy, that is every chakra which we have discussed, and they end up at the point of Agya Chakra, or at the base of what we call our nostril or the Agya Chakra. This is the point where they actually end up. These three nadis are responsible for channeling the energy into our entire body system. Now, once this energy is channeled through these nadis, then through, 2 crore nadis. About this briefly. According to Prasnopanishad, there are 101 principal nadis. 100 of them are divided into 100 each, that makes 10,000. And then tech is divided into 72,000 each. So 72 crore nadis or nadis. Now this is a huge network of nadi body system. You can feel that the flow of energy goes through these nadis into each and every particle, each and every cell of human. Sometimes you will meet people who have a problem with sensation in certain parts of their body. People feel that their parts are becoming numb. A particular part has become numb. Somebody has problem with the foot, as part of the foot has become numb. A part of the foot, hand has become numb. Why that happens? That happens precisely. Some of these nadis have become weak and they are not able to channel the energy into that particular segment of your body or that cell of your body. And once that flow of energy stops, then the part becomes without any. Now this energy, the principal source of energy is actually fire, but the most visible symbol of fire is sun. The sun provides the energy for everything we are using in life. Whatever source of energy, whether it is coming from wood, it is coming from water, it is coming from coal, or it is coming from uranium, original source of energy is the sun. It goes into different sources and then it's made available to us. Similarly, in the human body, the main source of energy is again the sun. All the 5 pranic channels, the Saman Pran, the Apan Pran, the Pran and the Udan Pran, all the 5 prans operate from the sun energy. Sun energy is the source of their operation, and these pranic in the form of nadis, they provide this energy all over the body. Now look at the body system. We have a very narrow temperature zone in which we survive. You can say 96 to 108 degrees is the basic survival zone. If the temperature goes below 96 or goes beyond 108, we are almost, in the verge of death, on the verge of death. So this is the temperature which is maintained in the body, and this maintenance of temperature is again governed by the sun energy inside the body. Not only that, the food which we digest, it is digested with the help of Saman Pran. Now we call it Agni. If you talk to our elder people, they say कि आपकी अग्नि कमजोर हो गई. वो कहेंगे अगर आपको खाना ढंग से नहीं पच रहा है, इसका मतलब आपकी अग्नि कमजोर हो गई है. तो उस अग्नि कमजोर होने का Saman Pran has become not able to digest the food. And that pran operates from the sun energy. It breaks the food into various parts. Basically, the food is broken into 7 different parts into our body by the Saman Pran. Imagine between our mouth where we eat and where we dispose of the waste, there is hardly 2 feet area, total 2 feet area. The entire system works. In that system, your food becomes blood, your food becomes flesh, your food becomes bones, your food is providing neurons, it is providing nutrition to the entire body within that small little space of 2 feet. In a case of child, it is even less, even could be half a feet at the time of birth. It could be, approximately half a foot. So imagine the kind of energy concentration in this area to digest the entire food system and put it into various parts of the body is extremely important. And this is done through these nadis, which are channels of energy. Now, the principal channels are these 3, but there are, more than 108 nadis, principal nadis, 100 principal nadis, which govern this process. But out of those 100, these 3 have been identified as the most important one. And we will talk about Sushumna a little later, because this is also related to what we call Kundalini. Now, Sushumna is basically fire. This fiery river, this is made of Agni, this nadi. This fiery river flows upwards from Mooladhara to Sahasrahara. That is what we saw there. It's like a pipe going upwards, passing through all the chakras, main channels of flow of energy, path for Kundalini. This is also the path for rise of Kundalini. Then Ida is basically cool, provides the cool energy. It's related to the moon. It is linked to the what we call nourishing energy. This is also called nourishing energy because the lunar energy, the lunar light which we receive, provides nourishment to all the plants and vegetables. Without the moonlight, the nourishment to the plants is not possible. Though the sunlight provides the fertility, but the nourishment, the juices, the qualities of each fruit and grain and vegetable, it actually comes from the moon energy. Though the moon energy is also coming from the sun, it's the indirect reflection of sun, but it impacts in a different way. And because of that different impact, that cool energy converts into entire vegetation in the form of what we call nourishing elements. Elements which characterize each fruit and vegetable and cereal. And those nourishing elements are done by the moon energy. And this Ida Nadi, Ida channel, actually carries that energy into our body, which provides nourishing, nurturing, it's more like feminine aspect of our personality. It's more like caring aspect of our personality, more related to the beauty, care, nurture, that side of human personality. And Pingala is basically related to the sun. It provides you what we call the vital energy. It is masculine, it gives you strength, and it gives you, the basic content of the energy. It actually gives shine to your body. People who are passionate, people who have tremendous energy, there you find that Pingala is more active. So this is controlled. Various masculine aspect of human body are controlled by Pingala. These three nadis have been described in different forms in Indian literature. And some people call them Triveni Yoga because they are called Yamuna, Saraswati, and Ganga. So this is how some people call them Triveni Yoga. So, this is more what we call symbolization, but basically saying that these three nadis are very important for energy flow in the body. And these three nadis pass through all the chakras except the Sahasrahar. And only the Sushumna goes up to Sahasrahar. The remaining two end up at Agya Chakra at the Prakriti, just at the top of our nostril. Now, at the root of Muladhara Chakra, you see the first chakra, Muladhara, at the root lies Shakti. Shakti in the coiled form. And that is why it is actually called a serpent. If you go to a Shiva temple, you will find that the Shiva phallus is normally surrounded by a snake at the bottom. Now that snake is the serpent power, that is denoting the Shakti, the energy which is surrounding the phallus. Now this point we have to understand very clearly. It is little bit subtle in understanding, but we can understand it. Shiva and Shakti, these are the two primary manifestation of cosmic energy in the world. The universal energy is Shiva, which is in the static form, which is without any movement, which is just stored energy, completely stored energy. When you want to convert this into a kinetic or active energy, you have to use Shakti, the power. Though both are linked, but the movement of Shakti provides movement into that source, basic source of energy, and there from where the entire universe comes into being. The Shakti's movement on the Shiva gives birth to the universe. Actually, the unfoldment of the universe starts when the Shakti starts working on the stored energy of Shiva. It's like when the waves start working on the ocean energy shows its display, it shows the manifestation. Otherwise, the ocean is lying dormant, quiet. When you go deep down the ocean, there's no movement at all. There's absolutely quiet, cool. But when you see on the top, because of the movement of water, the waves happen and they manifest the power of the ocean, and which is comparable to the manifested part of the universe. When the Shiva's stored energy is activated by Shakti, then this universe appears. All the forms of the universe appear. The unfoldment of the universe happens with that process. And this process is important because this process makes Nirgun into Sagun. The things which have no attributes, they become full of attributes. The things which are unlimited and infinite, they become limited and finite. And the things which do not have any forms and shape, they acquire forms and shape. So the Shakti gives all these elements to Nirgun, to infinite, and to the formless, and converts that into with attributes, finite and with form and shape. So this is the process which actually converts the energy and makes the universe the manifested universe. Precisely this energy is stored in the Mooladhara, in the base chakra in the human astral body. And if we can activate this energy and we can take it upwards to the Sahasrahara, then the entire process makes you a transformed person. A person who has acquired the magnanimity of an ocean, the person who has become, who has merged himself with the universal consciousness and acquired that Shakti of Brahma, that is what we call Aham Brahma Asmi. So this transformation is possible when we are able to take this Shakti from Mooladhara, where it is lying in the form of a coiled snake. If we can activate this and push it upwards, then that transformation is possible. Now at this point I would like to tell you that in the literature you will find a variety of methods for transforming this energy or activating Kundalini as they call it, and then taking it up to Sahasrahara. Now please do not go by that, because that could be sometimes very destructive, very unpredictable. This process has to be done only through a trained teacher. It cannot be done based on what you read or what you see on YouTube. Please don't try that. I would like to make it very clear, because this process is a very delicate process, and this has to be done under the supervision of a guru. Or otherwise this process can be achieved through slow motion, through slow movement of things, and that is the most productive method. If some people do it through agitation in one go, then it can cause tremendous problem, and sometimes people die, sometimes people become insane, sometimes there are cases where people become unconscious for months together. So that can happen if some people try to awaken this energy lying at the base of Mooladhara in a very crude or very sudden manner. So we should avoid that. We should do a step-by-step process, and yoga is the step-by-step process to bring this energy upward. If we can follow the 8-limb theory of Patanjali Yoga Sutra, I think that provides a very foundational knowledge, a very profound knowledge in raising this energy upwards. It is not directly linked to Kundalini, but yes, it actually regulates the flow of your energy through different chakras and raises it upwards to Sahasrahara. So precisely the state of Samadhi in Patanjali Yoga Sutra is that state where your Shakti from Mooladhara goes upwards and merges in Sahasrahara chakra. So this is how it works. So briefly I will tell you the 8 limbs. These are called Ashtanga Yoga. This is not in step by step. They are not one after another. The limbs don't work one after another, like hand and feet work together. These are limbs. Eyes and ears and hand, feet, all the limbs of body work together, but in a cohesive manner. And that is the what meaning of limbs is. Ang, ast ang, art ang. It is not in a step by process that you do the first and then you second and third and fourth. Not like that. They work together and they work in a cohesive manner. This is extremely important to know. And then there are 8 limbs which are, of course we'll have some time at a different stage a new or a exclusive talk on Patanjali Yoga Sutra. But at this moment, I would just like to mention the 8 limbs of Patanjali Yoga Sutra in very briefly. The first is called Yama. Yama is basically to purify your, inner process, become truthful, become non-violent, give up all the, the what you call telling lies and things like that. Non-stealing. So this is the first process that we purify from, inside our body. Then second process is Niyama, Yama, Niyama, then Asana, Pranayam, Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, and Samadhi. These are the 8 limbs, and they are not in that order. Okay, they work together. Now, Niyama is basically to have a philosophy or an action program in which you are content. You have contentment. You give up a large number of desires, and you live in austerity. You don't aspire, much from this world. So that is basically Niyama. And then comes Pranayama. Pranayama are basically the breathing exercises. There are a variety of pranayamas, and those are used to regulate the flow of energy inside the body. They are also used to re-energize the various parts of the body, various faculties of the body. So that is the pranayama. We have heard a lot about them, like Anulom Vilom Pranayam, or Bhambari Pranayam, or what you call, the variety of pranayamas. I'm forgetting the names of some of them at this moment. Then there are Pratyahar. Pratyahar is basically withdrawal of sense organs from the sense objects. Sense objects attract sense organs. Like, for example, you have a very delicious food lying outside, and the sense organ of your tongue, your mouth will start watering, and you will feel like eating it. So the combination of the what you call sense object, which is the food, and the sense organ, which is your mouth, the sense of taste, the combination of the two attracts you, and you become engaged into that activity. Now, to withdraw from the sense objects, you have to bring your sense organs under some sort of regulation, under some sort of understanding. I'm not using the word control, because control is actually not the right word. It is basically Sanyam, which is a regulatory framework to keep them under some sort of understanding, that they don't go to the what you call Vishaya, or the sense objects. Lord Krishna has very beautifully described in Gita that जैसे कछुआ सारे अंगों को समेट लेता है अपने भीतर. You might have seen this animal कछुआ. It takes away all the limbs of the body, all the senses of the body inside. उसी तरह से, in the same fashion, if we can distract, or we can take away our senses from the sense objects, that would be the meaning of pratyahara. And then dharana is basically, dharana is a word which comes from dhar. Dhar is also dharti, that is to hold. Dharma is also the same root, dhri. Actually, the root, Sanskrit root is dhri. From where comes dharma, where comes dharti, from where comes dharna. Eh, the one which holds everything together. That is the meaning of this root, Sanskrit root dhri. So dharana is to hold together, means to resolve and to stay in that condition where you have purified your, internal thinking process, where your actions are purified. Then you have regulated your sense organs, and then you hold on to that position, that becomes dharana. So that is basically to have that resolve that I will not allow them to go back, and they stay in that state, for good. So that is dharana, and then dhyana is meditation, and then samadhi, where you merge the individual consciousness merges with the universal consciousness, like a river merges with the ocean and becomes ocean. So this is the process of moving towards rise of our inner energy upwards to Sahasrahar chakra. The energy should flow through different chakras upwards, and then it goes up. Now, when we do meditation in our regular sessions on Saturdays, we do think about two chakras. That is, we talk about Agya chakra here, and we talk about Anahat at the center of our chest. Now, these two chakras are the upper chakras, but then below that there are Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, and of course the Manipur chakra. So these chakras, they bring the energy up, then it goes up and up and up. Now, why do we concentrate more on Agya chakra? Because that is the chakra where mind lives. And mind is like air which keeps flowing all the time. It is extremely difficult to stabilize the mind. The very nature of the mind is to move, to flow, to keep going. And the movement of the mind creates commotions in our body, because the mind takes us from one place to another, and with the mind comes commotion. For example, a thought comes, or the mind goes to a shopping mall. All of a sudden the commotion starts. So what will I do the shopping? What kind of shopping? What do I need? How will I arrange money? How will I go there? All these things happen. So any thought where the mind takes you creates commotion inside the body. It can be the past activities, it can be the future activities, it can be the present activities, but all those activities which are generated by the mind, they create a sort of commotion, and that commotion shakes you, that creates instability, and that is where the problem starts. And that is why we need to control Agya chakra very carefully. So the movement of the mind are restricted, and then the mind, if it can be merged with Anahat, that is our heart chakra, then it acquires a new element of compassion, because heart chakra is linked to compassion, it is linked to love, it is linked to very positive energy, positive feeling, and it is not destabilizing. So this is the reason that we use these two chakras in our Saturday meditation sessions. But there are many people who would use other chakras as well. We will think about that at a later stage. But for the time being, we will continue to use these two chakras. Now, to regulate the flow of energy, these are external elements also which are important. Inner energy is coming into the body through the food we eat. But the external energy also comes Through, for example, when you are walking in a park, the cosmic energy gets into your body through the fresh air you are inhaling. The air is one of the most important source of cosmic energy going into the body. Then when you are sitting in the sun energy goes directly into the body through the body pores. So that is another source of energy. So the wind is one source, the sun is another source, the food is the third source. These are the three major sources of energy. Food means food and water both together. So these are the major sources of body energy, and then this energy should be converted into proper life force. Now that is done through the digestive system. Now some people are not able to digest their food properly, then obviously they lack energy. Their energy is not properly converted. The food is not converted into energy, and obviously there would be shortage of energy inside the body. So these three things, though they are external, but they are important for regulating the flow of energy. So try to have fresh air whenever you have a chance, and try to sit in the sun or walk in the sun whenever you can, and try to regulate your food which is fresh, which is natural, which is not with so-called chemicals inside it, and which is freshly cooked. These are very important lessons we have to learn in our family for regulating the energy flow inside the body. And we start working on Kundalini, but the Kundalini should have enough support of the energy which we are taking inside the body. And therefore these factors are important. The food which is natural, the food which is fresh, we should have fresh air, we should have good quality of water, and we should use sunlight whenever we have a chance to sit in the sun or walk in the sun. That will replenish our energy periodically inside the body. If you keep sitting in air conditioned atmosphere all the time, your energy level goes down, because that is not very good. You have to have natural fresh air rather than the conditioned air. So these are the external factors which I was telling, but then internal factors is governed by these seven chakras and by the three principal nadis we discussed, that is Sushumna, Ida and Pingala. And these, if they are in good shape, you will have no problem in the flow of energy inside your body. So I think I would like to end this today's talk here, and I'm now open to the questions. Whatever question you want to ask, I'll be very happy to answer them. But let me clarify that we will discuss separately the Patanjali Yoga Sutra in a separate session altogether in great detail. And as I mentioned, let us not get into these various tantric modes for igniting your Kundalini, because that could be very dangerous. So now, if you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer.